What did we learn yesterday? What did we get out of Latonia's presentation? What did we think about capstone check-ins? How are we feeling?
I think she had an awesome presentation. Learned the importance of sticking with it. That's one. And building relationships with people in the community for doing the things that you want to do, especially organic relationships.
Absolutely. Yep. Super important to reach out and to maintain connections and foster the ones you have, right? Just because you had a 30-minute meeting with someone does not mean the relationship needs to end there. Sending a thank you, sending follow-up steps, taking action items from it, staying in touch, all important things, not only just for mock interviewing, but really any meeting. What else?
The Emergent Works program that she mentioned. I just kind of like read up on a little bit of it today, and it actually looks like a really cool program. So
awesome. Glad to see you check that out. I did post Latonia's slides on the outline from yesterday. There's some really great advice in there. So if you have not checked out those slides, I recommend that you do that. And Latonia said that she was also going to share some of her follow-up emails that she used after interviews as like a thank you follow-up. So I would not be surprised if you saw those in the CIC Student C3 channel probably sometime this week. Any questions or things we need to recover or add to the recover list?
I wanted to ask about, I know some of the boot camps that she took. Do you think she would share those, like the HTML, CSS, or?
Yeah, I would just in the CIC Student C3 channel, just tag Latonia and ask her like, hey, could you give me a list of the programs that you went through after graduation? And I'm sure she could share them with you.
Okay, thanks.
Corey, go ahead.
Okay, I was just getting my screen fixed. I wanted to ask about the capstones. So like obviously I was a little bit out of the loop, and I may have missed this. Is there like a day that we're going to be doing like full presentations on again? And what is that date again? Just so I can take note of it.
Yeah, so it's going to be graduation, which is
September 8th.
Thank you, September 8th. And that will be at 5:30 at Lemoyne, the same place that we had the kickoff event where you got your laptops and all of that stuff. So that will be 5:30 on September 8th, which is a Thursday. And then that whole week we will be in person practicing presentations and doing the final kind of capstone work and getting everything working.
Cool.
Any other questions? Okay. We are going to wrap up our full stack portfolio site today. We are going to dive into a little bit of routing. We're going to make a couple API calls. We're going to go over getting that data into the state and how we use the ID in the database in our links to make one reusable page that we can reuse over every project. With that said, I am about probably 3/4 brain power right now. I have a history of migraines and I get a spacey feeling like once every 2 months. And of course I am getting it right now. So what I'm going to do for this class is I'm actually going to let you guys drive. So I'm going to show you what the end objective is, and you're going to tell me what steps it takes to pull it off. And we are going to code on it together. And of course, we'll take breaks throughout it and poll like we always do. But I'm going to let you guys tell me step by step what we are doing, and we will go from there. So,
Mac,
yeah.
Mac, I'm so sorry, and I'm gonna speak lowly because I don't want to hurt.
Oh no, I'm not in any head pain. Fortunately, it's just the spaciness that comes with the migraine. So,
okay.
I'm fortunately not in any pain or any light sensitivity or anything like that.
Oh, good. Okay. I just wanted to ask, and I'm sorry if I missed it before, during the mock interviews, will they be asking us technical questions? And did you mention that we'll be going over like examples of a question that they might ask and how to answer it?
Yeah, so I've got the agenda for the rest of the week. Let me just pull that up. Today we're finishing up full stack portfolio. Tomorrow we're going to do some generic interview questions, kind of covering some things that may come up, concepts during interviews that may come up as well. And then we will also touch on the ERD tomorrow. As just a good reminder of what an ERD should look like for your capstone and some of those concepts for planning out the database. And then on Thursday, we're going to spend time more on technical interviews. So Wednesday will just be kind of generic questions that may come up or some terms. And then Thursday will be more on the technical side of them giving you a coding challenge and you having to solve it. So the mock interviews will be somewhere in between the two of them. They will have some generic questions, some behavioral questions, and then they will also have technical questions, but not technical at the level of saying like, hey, go code this out and make it work. More technical in terms of like terms and concepts and definitions and that kind of stuff. So that's where the line will be drawn for the mock interviews. But I also want to prep you for like the more technical, hands-on kind of, hey, given this algorithm, like go code it out. And so we'll focus on that on Thursday. But tomorrow we'll focus on kind of more prep for the mock interviews themselves.
Thank you.
And Ariel just mentioned in the Slack, in the GitHub pack, there's tech interview practice in there, but on Thursday, we're going to go over LeetCode and a couple other coding platforms so you can get more practice at a technical interview as well.
Thank you, Ariel.
No problem. Any other questions?
What did I miss?
Nicole, do you have a question?
I was just saying, did I miss anything extremely important?
Nope, we're just about to get started. Okay.
Sure.
So I'm going to share my screen. The goal today, this is our portfolio site as we had it, right? And when you clicked on this button, it took you to a page with more details about the project. The goal is to have all of this data in the database and make it so that when we click on any one of these pages, it's going to pull the data in from the database and show that information. But we are only going to create one page and have that data be dynamically loaded based off of which one we clicked on in the button here. That is the only objective for tonight, believe it or not. So we are going to dive into our code. I did send in the live stream channel 533 the W20D2 starter. If you want to use that zip file, you can. I am going to my code to my week 20 folder, which I have not created. Going to create a day 2 folder and open that up. Then I'm going to grab the zip from Slack and unzip it. Wayne, I will do my best to shoot for 6:45 for break. I'm then going to take that folder and drag the 3 folders that were in it into my day 2 folder. I am going to open, I'm going to leave the reference as is for now. I think we have everything out of that we need. So I'm going to open the portfolio React project in VS Code and the portfolio backend as well. I'm going to right click on my package.json, open an integrated terminal and npm I. I'm going to right click on server.js. I'm going to open an integrated terminal and I'm going to npm I. Then I'm going to npm run start. Should bring my front end project up. I am then going to npm run start here. Should bring my server up and I should have connected. And then on the front end, I should just be able to see my portfolio. I'm going to start live shares. And I will start a poll to make sure everyone is ready to rock and roll. Four votes in on the poll. Looks like we've got 12 people in tonight. We'll give you guys a couple minutes to get set up here.
Hey Max, I'm having a problem with my back end. I changed my name in the database and it's still saying that I have a problem.
Go to the elephant up at the top.
Yep,
And do you have a stop button and a green check mark here, or do you have a start button?
a stop.
Okay. There goes that theory. Go ahead, share your screen.
Okay.
Scroll up a little bit. Keep going. Okay, so you've got database portfolio does not exist. So
Mhm.
let's go to your beekeeper.
Oh, I don't have that. I wasn't here on Thursday, so that's probably why.
Oh, that will do it. Okay.
Yep.
Double click on default database. If you double click on it, it should open the connection for you. There we go. And then change that Star Wars to portfolio. And hit the run button.
Sorry, I think it's okay.
Okay, and then you should be all set in Beekeeper, so you can close that for now.
Okay.
And then in your terminal, just click into it, hit Control-C to stop it, and then up enter to restart it. No.
I think I spelled portfolio wrong.
Oh, that could be.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead, run that.
Sorry, I got a lot of stuff going on in my background. Run.
And before we come out of here, just change create to drop. And then misspell portfolio again. I think you were missing the T. Take out the. I think it was PORFOLIO. I'm just trying to delete the misspelled wrong. So no, I'm saying if you hit the refresh button here
Sorry.
and then click on the drop down here, you're gonna have the misspelled one and the correct one. I'm saying
Gotcha.
delete the misspelled one. So do PORFO.
How do I delete it? I'm sorry. Don't kill me.
Just misspell it again here. We're saying drop database, which is saying
Oh.
delete the database, the misspelled one. So when
Okay.
you hit run on that, now when you hit the refresh button up here and then open the drop down again, you should have, that wrong one is gone now.
Okay.
So close that
Okay.
and Control C again on your server,
Up, enter.
and you're
Okay.
good to go.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Nicole.
So I still never figured out how to get my thing working. So can you help me get caught up?
Are you using my code?
No, I'm using my code, but I followed along in class, so it should be the same.
Okay, let's take a look. If it's a quick fix, I can help you. If not, you're just gonna have to use my code. So where is your code?
So when I click make it rain, it's just a blank page.
I can't see that page. Go back to Chrome. Oh, there it is. Okay, so okay, go to your app.js. Okay, so you're missing the route for the projects. So I don't know why you have this commented. Yeah.
I was trying to comment out to see what the problem was, but I wasn't sure.
Okay, comment the route back in as well. And then in your homepage in the port, or maybe in the projects page. What's in? I'm sorry, it's the portfolio page. Scroll down to wherever your link is and make it or all three of those should be a lowercase p.
A lowercase p tag?
A lowercase p for the link. All right, go back to your browser and you're good to go.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like we are good to go. Any final questions? Okay. So I am on my homepage. I have 3 weather apps here, but if I go to my beekeeper and I switch to my portfolio project up in the top left, I only have one thing in here and it's called weather. Well, why do I have 3 weathers here?
Because we copied and pasted.
So how am I going to fix that? How am I going to get my database data to show up here instead of the template that we are using? Zach, go ahead.
I'm not seeing anything show up in my projects table for some reason.
Okay, what we did, and this may be a step that I did kind of rushed at the end of class. I hit the little plus button down here, and that adds a new row. And then in order, and everyone should do this just so we've got some example data in there. Then I filled in some information. So what's the other one? Let's say it's Netflix. And we'll say like grid layout project. And then we'll load everything else in a second. And then the created at, you need to put now with parentheses at the end. That will automatically put in the current timestamp. And then you need to put now in the updated at as well. And then once you finally do all of that, you hit the apply button down here in the bottom right. And that's what will add that row in for us. Christy. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Zach.
Just so you're aware, I can't see the plus sign or the apply on my screen. Because it's up by the Zoom.
It's like on
bar.
the bottom.
I see it. I got it, but I'm just letting you know in case
Okay.
anyone's having that problem as well.
Yeah, if you don't see the plus in the bottom right, you may need to just like resize your window and just move it so you can see this plus right here.
Also, can we do weather and Netflix?
Yep. Yeah, we'll go back and fill that in with more details in a second. Christy, go ahead.
Yeah, Thursday, we were at the end, we ran out of time. So that whole part you just did in Beekeeper, you did that without us. Remember you said you don't code along, so. I don't have,
That should be the only step. I've got all the rest of the code cleaned out from there. So everyone should have 2 rows in or have at least 1 row in your database, if not 2.
can you go over that again? Cause I was just watching, cause I didn't,
Yeah, so you're gonna hit the plus button in the bottom right. You're
I
gonna
don't have, wait, like Zach said, I don't have, I don't have to.
open the
refresh
project table.
on the entity.
Under entities, you should have a projects table.
Right.
If you double click on that to open it, you're gonna get a plus button in the bottom right.
I got you. Okay.
Now you can put in a name. So the last one we did was it calculator?
Yeah.
So add in a name and a summary, and this should work just like Excel, right? So when you go over to the created at, you need to put now with parentheses at the end in both the created at and the updated at. Then hit apply down at the bottom, and that will add the row in. Zach, go ahead.
Is there a way, if you accidentally click the plus button too many times, is there a way to delete a line without modifying it?
You should be, can you right click on, well, let's find out. If you right click, you should be able to just delete the row and that will get rid of it.
Thank you.
And after you finish, we hit apply.
Yes, in the bottom right.
Okay.
I mean, just poll and make sure everyone's up to date on that.
Can you show the end, the updated ad again?
Yeah, you just put now in parentheses for both of them.
Oh, okay, thank you. I thought I had to put the now
Yeah.
in. Got it.
If anyone's stuck, let me know. Otherwise, vote in the poll just so I know that everyone's following along. You should have at least 1 row. We'll go back in and fill in all of this other stuff in a second.
Okay.
But just getting us started with this.
Hey, Max, and updated at, should we be putting something in there?
Now with an opening parenthesis and a closing parenthesis.
Was
So
it
that
all
should be-
capitalized? Sorry.
It is, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
So you're literally going to put the word now in both of these. And then when you hit apply, you'll see that the timestamp actually shows up in there of the current time and date.
If I don't put the summary in now, can I update that later?
Yes. Okay. 7 votes in, let's go for 8 and then we'll move forward. Okay. So we've got our data in the database. We can see it here. It's in Beekeeper. We've got our portfolio section in the front end, and I would like all of this data to show up in here. What do I do?
Go to the back end.
Okay, in the back end.
Database.js.
Okay, I'm in database.js.
I don't know, maybe should be looping something?
So
You tell me.
I see connect to database async, but I don't see a way. Oh, yes, I do. Never mind.
So if you don't know the answer, go to another project that we've done where we've retrieved data from the database and made it show up in the front end. Because when you're working after graduation, this is going to be a perfectly reasonable request. Hey, we've got some content in the database. We would like it to show up on our homepage.
Do we need to create an endpoint to retrieve it?
Oh, there's an idea. Okay. So in our server.js, we've already got one endpoint in here. Let's create another endpoint. So what am I going to type to get another endpoint?
Server.get.
Max, you're
Okay.
still on Beekeeper, by the way.
I am.
Yeah, on our screen.
Oh, sorry. I must have shared that one thing by accident. Now, can you see everything?
Yeah, we're good now.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Okay. And what are we getting from the server?
The data.
The data, what kind of data is it about?
Projects.
Projects. Okay. So we set up our async rec res, and then what are we gonna do in that endpoint?
Get all the projects.
Okay.
Find all. Project dot find all. I don't think there's any conditions, right? Because we just want all the projects.
Yep, that's fine. We done in the back end?
We got to return it.
Return and
Is that how we return data from the back end?
no, I think it's red send.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we send it, we want to label it. So we're going to say, hey, all of the projects are coming from a find all. Now, what's the one thing we have to be careful of when we make database calls? What are we missing here?
The
Wait.
async and await.
Await. Yeah, we had the async already, so we add in the await. Okay, now we've got our endpoint created. Someone other than Doug, how do we use that endpoint on the front end?
You make a fetch to
We do. And when we make that fetch, where do we put that fetch code to say, hey, that fetch should happen when the project component shows up? It's almost like we'd like to,
App.js.
well, we can do it right in project.js because that's where we're using the data.
but we're at the before the return.
It's almost like we need to use some functionality of React. Only we knew what to use.
Use state.
Okay, we can do our use state. What are we gonna do our state with? What's our state gonna hold?
Hold on. What are we? Different
Projects.
Projects. And we need a way to set those projects, and that is all going to come from use state.
Yeah.
But use state is going to be an array because we have multiple projects. Okay, now how do we use that state to load it up? How do we get our endpoint to run? We can't just put our fetch in here. We need some way to tell it, hey, I want that fetch to run the first time this component shows up.
A use effect.
Use effect. Okay. And in that use effect, we have a function that is going to run only when the component first mounts. So that's why we use the empty array. Then we say, hey, const get projects is going to be an async function, and we are going to get the projects as soon as we define it. Okay, now Wayne, what were you saying we need to do?
We need to make a fetch to the backend.
And what route are we going to get?
From the projects.
Okay, and what do we do with this fetch?
Wait.
I'll wait.
And once we await it, what else do we do with it?
Gotta parse it out.
Parse JSON parse.
Now, we just did a whole heck of a lot of stuff. So before we even get to state and using all of that, we should console log out our data and see what's coming back. So I go over to my browser, I pop open my inspect, and I look in my console and refresh, and I get nothing.
Did you connect to the database?
Yes, I have it connected here. So
Did
my
you connect the
back
front end to the back end?
right here.
All right.
Get projects, use effect. Projects, all target blank. Oh, you know what? Look at what page I'm in. I'm in my project page. So when I click into this, now I'm getting all of my projects back. I don't want to be doing this on my project page. I want to be doing it in the portfolio section.
Right.
So I need to switch over to my home portfolio and take all of the use effect and use state and move it into there instead. Okay, so I save that. I delete it out of my project. Now I come over here, and on my home page, I've got my projects, and there are 3 of them, and everything is in there. Christy, go ahead.
I'm not seeing, like, where you were in project.js, I wasn't seeing that in the live share, so I don't know what.
Is it in portfolio.js now?
Let me see.
And can anyone else see this code in the live share?
I can see it in the live share.
Okay. So Christy, you may need to close that live share window and just reopen it.
Open it, okay.
Okay. Let's pause here and make sure you should be able to see when you're on localhost 3000 in your console, you should be able to see the 3 projects that were in the database.
or 2.
Mm-mm.
Or 2 or 1 or however many you have created. Yes. This is all the code we've modified up on the screen right now.
Mm.
So,
I have another question.
Christy, go ahead.
I remember I was doing this before and I started, but I didn't change anything because remember you told me to wait. So I don't have a portfolio.js. I'm trying to remember what.
Do you
I
have
want-
this section on your homepage?
I do, but I'm trying to remember what what I had instead so that I'll know where to put the use effect in the use state, but I can't.
So it's probably all in your home instead. Yeah. So we made components for everything, right? So our home is a really nice clean section because we've got it all broken up like that.
Oh, that's right. You guys yours is broken out by home, portfolio, and mine.
About contact footer. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. Now I remember. Okay, I just gotta put that in. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Zach, you want to share a screen? Okay, so go back to your back end. You've got an error going on there, which is going to cause issues. It looks like you got a import for free without you even asking for it. So if you take out all of line 7, we're not using map finder options. You can delete it. You don't have to comment it out. Trust me, you won't be using that. Now you're back online. So if you go back to your browser and refresh, you are caught up and good to go.
Cool, thank you.
No problem. Stephanie, go ahead.
I was having a couple errors and I went through and fixed it, but now it's giving me like a whole new error and I'm not sure what this one says.
Okay, go ahead, share screen. Let's take a look.
So I got rid of everything that we didn't hear.
Yep.
Including the import, and then I went to portfolio and put it in there. But it looks correct like how yours is, but I'm not sure what these errors down here are saying.
I think those are all warnings, and I think I have them as well.
Oh,
So if you go to your browser and just refresh and open the console. you should have, click on that object to open it. And there are your projects that are coming back from your database. So you're actually good to go. If you open the projects array there, you can see your data that's there. So you're all caught up.
Oh, cool. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have those same warnings as well. We'll go through at the end of the class and clean them up.
Okay, thank you.
Christy, go ahead.
I have an error. I want you to look at. So it says parsing error, import and export may only appear at the top level.
Okay, so go to the top of your page.
So
So you've got two home pages. You've got a home page here and a home page here, and it's confusing the heck out of everything.
So I need to take this one out,
Yep.
but then is that gonna throw off the?
Well, save, let's see. Nope, you're good to go. That was the only problem.
Thank God. Okay, thank you.
Okay, 7 votes in, going for 8, and we will keep going. There is 8. Okay. Doug, go ahead.
I'm getting a 404.
Share your screen. Is your backend running? It is. Go to your server.js. You are missing the slash in your projects.
Thank you. Details. Thank you.
Sometimes they matter. Oftentimes in programming, they do. Okay, good to roll forward.
No,
You have a question?
one thing, share real quick. So shouldn't this be home? Like,
Yeah, so scroll up in your console. Let's see what the error is.
close this. Thank you.
Okay, so scroll down. Those are just warnings. And then uncaught type error, function is not iterable, portfolio line 6. So let's go look at that in your code. You state you're missing the parentheses and the array inside of it. You state line 6, we're missing the parentheses at the end of you state and the array that goes inside of it. There you go. All right, go back to your browser and you're should be good to go.
Okay.
It looks like you're not getting the data out though. Go back to your code. You scroll over a little bit. I think you are missing the line where you actually, yeah, you got to call get projects between line 13 and 14. Okay, and if you pop open projects in the console, you'll actually see the data from your database in there. You know, I'm saying in the console, go back. If you click on that, yeah, you can see and open up projects. You can actually see all the data in there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so let's keep going here. So we've got our data. It's console logging out here. What do we do with it now?
We need to put it connected to the database. No.
Well, it's coming from the database. That's what our data is there.
You need to set it to the yeah, to the links to the
link.
yeah, the front end. the links in the front end, projects in the front end.
Okay, how do I do that?
Sorry. So we're already getting the data. We already know where the projects are, so we just need to link those two, I guess.
Okay, how do we do that?
We had to go to projects, project.js. I don't know.
Okay, I'm in project.js. Where do we want this data to show up? We want this data to show up on our homepage in our portfolio section.
Right.
We
Wait.
don't want it to say first front end project using Bootstrap Grid. We want it to say my awesome weather app. That is in the data right here. What concept, what thing in React do we need to use to store the data in a special place that will make it show up in the page?
In the summary or no?
Eight.
In the state. Nicole, do you have a question?
Oh, I was asking about the summary in the database.
Well, the
Remind-
summary's here. That's what we want to show up here. What is the point of state? Why do we use state?
To keep track of data, right? To have the automatically update and track the data or something.
Yeah. So we've got the data here. We could just use that data. But the whole point of state is that when we update the state, whenever we call set projects, this return down here is going to automatically rerun to show the data that is in the state. So what we are going to do is we are going to set our projects to the data, but not just the data. If we look at the data, data is an object. We need to get the projects outside of that to get the actual array that shows all of that. So we say data.projects. So I come over here, looks exactly the same to me. What's the last step we need to do to get the projects to show up here?
Do we need to do like a dot ID or a dot summary maybe? I don't know.
Where?
Like additionally to the, on the data dot projects? I'm not sure.
That doesn't do anything. That doesn't do anything.
So, you think about this?
We're setting the projects. Setting projects is up here, but this, have we used this yet?
No,
Okay, so how do we use those projects? We've set the data into it. It's there. How do we use that?
did we use, we already, so, but the actual thing that it's in is use state, right? It equals use state. Both of those together equals use state. But we
They
use
come out
that
of here.
projects in there.
Yeah.
So do we have to use a use state or like a use state down there or use project? Like, I'm not sure.
We do need to use this project somewhere. If we don't have the answer, where is another project that we've used that has used state?
The blog or no?
Sure, let's go look. So we're gonna go to our blog front end. I should have opened that in a new window, and I think I may have just screwed up the live share. Let me actually switch this back. To
Should we call projects in the return? No?
we should, but we're gonna open up the blog project.
I gotta go. Get ready and I'm leaving.
Okay, now we're gonna look. We have a title and we use that state. Let's look at where we use that title. So I'm gonna scroll down until I find the title, and oh, we use that in value. Okay, but this state is keeping track of an input. That state isn't actually coming from the database and showing up. So let's see if we can find another place that we use state. Okay, we've got our posts and our set posts. We use state here and we set the posts in. Okay, this looks very familiar to what we're doing. How do we get these posts to show up? Well, if I scroll down, I need to map over them. What is the point of the map? What does the map do?
Looping over.
It loops over all of them. Well, I would like to loop over all of my portfolio code. By the way, did I screw up the live share? Can you guys still see my portfolio?
You did screw it up.
I
Yeah,
did.
the front end is gone.
Oh, crap. Okay.
So Max, just to clarify, are we looping over with map? I'm sorry, you broke up on my audio.
Yep, we are going to right now. So
All
we
right,
take
thank
our
you.
projects, we come down here, and where do I want to map over them? Inside this row, I want to do projects dot map. Now I'm going to look at my reference code. What do we map? Oh, we get access to each individual thing that we're looping over. So every time I map over it, I'm going to get access to each individual project. Okay, now for each individual project, what do I want to show up? I'm going to just start with a div. And inside the div, I want the project name to show up. Well, how do we use the name? Let me look at my reference code. Oh, when we say post.title, that's coming from this post up here, which is coming through the map, which is coming through our state, which is getting set from our API call, which is getting fetched from posts, which is going all the way back to the back end to get all of that data. So let's reverse that flow. We've got our fetch here that goes down to our data. Our data sets into projects. We get our projects here. That flows all the way down to our projects here. We map over them to get each individual project. And in here, I can put my project.name.
Hold on, wait a minute.
So I'm going to save. I'm going to go look at my database. I'm going to go look at my front end. And I'm going to remember to npm run start because apparently I didn't do that. And now when I scroll down, Netflix, calculator, weather. Stopping there to poll.
Oh, gosh. Can you go back to what page were you on when you did the
I'm
math?
all in portfolio. I know this may feel painfully slow, but we really want to make sure that we get these concepts because you're not going to have me after graduation going step by step through this stuff. So if at any point that you don't understand why we're doing what we're doing, now is the right time to ask.
Okay, good. Let me raise my hand.
Go ahead, Chrissy.
Okay, so what I'm confused about is why we did the projects.map under the div class name row.
That's going to make sense in 1 second.
And I'm gonna have to, what time is it? I'm gonna have this, I probably need to split this out because it's hard to figure out where to put that.
That's the whole benefit of components is it makes our code more readable.
Right, right, I understand that part, but I did something different and now I'm trying to follow along.
So the tentative answer, this will make more sense in a second, but I knew I wanted my names to show up under this to view more details about the projects.
Mhm.
So I found that and I stuck my map in here. This map is going to carry more water in a second, but for right now, I just wanted to check to see, hey, is this data showing up?
So for me at this point, I need to map in my portfolio section because that's the area that we're working in.
Correct.
Okay, so now, okay, I got it now. All right, let me.
So let's take a step back. In the back end, we already have a project model. The project model has the name and the summary and all the data with it. So we went all the way back to Beekeeper and we created a couple rows. Then we import our project from our DB file. We say, hey, we're going to make a new endpoint. Whenever a fetch comes in to the projects as a GET request, we're going to go to the database, this project find all coming from the database. It's going to pull all of that information and send it back into the projects object. We then go to the front end and we say we need to get our projects in the portfolio. So what we're going to do is we're going to use effect. When the first time that this component shows up, we put in this empty array that says the first time the component shows up, we want to get the projects. That is an async function that's going to fetch from projects. Now this localhost 3001 matches up with this get projects right here. Then we get the response, we parse the JSON, but we need to do something special with this data. We can't just use this data because we want the whole return section to update when that data gets set in. So we come up here and we create our state. In our state, we say, hey, these are the projects that are stored in the state, and this function, this set projects, is how we get access, is how we update those projects. Now in the use state, we're in this use state and we got to tell it what the initial value of the state is going to be. So because we don't have any projects loaded in yet, we're just going to use an empty array. We don't have the projects yet. When it starts, it's going to be empty. Then when we set the projects in, it is going to be an array with all of the projects in it. Now our fetch runs, it sets the projects and React goes, oh, you need me to go update. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to the projects. This projects is coming from the state right up here. And what we need to do is we need to go over each individual project because we can't just say deal with all these projects. We need to provide an example of how to deal with each individual one. So what we do is we map over it, that is looping over it in React, which gives us access to each individual project. Now that we've got access to each individual project, what do we want to show up for each one of them? We're going to return a div that is going to show the project names.
It's in the curly brace because it's a bracket. I mean, not a bracket, it's an object. And
No, it's not an object. It's JSX.
Okay.
So project.name is the object syntax. So yes, project is an object. But if we didn't put these curly braces here, what's going to show up is literally project.name. So it's kind of like a template literal, except that in JSX, we don't need the $sign curly braces or the backticks. We're just going to put in the curly braces. These curly braces are JSX, right? That is the React syntax. And so those curly braces are saying, oh, you don't actually want project.name to show up. You would like the value of project.name to show up, which is Netflix, calculator, and weather.
Am I supposed to be seeing that?
You should see these three or whatever you have in your database.
I'm not seeing that.
Either.
Zach, go ahead.
You're getting a error. Each child in the list should have a unique key prop, right?
Yes, we'll fix that in a second. Wayne or Christy, you said you aren't getting it. Do you want to share your screens?
I'll let Wayne share. I'll watch.
It should be here somewhere. here.
Yeah, so go to your portfolio code. Scroll up to your use effect. Okay, everything. Oh, you're missing the set projects.
Where? Set projects and then data dot projects.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There we go. Thank you.
Yep. Christy, was that did that get it working for you too?
No.
Okay, share your screen and then Nicole, I'll come to you next.
Okay, let's see. So I'm gonna fix this on break because this is driving me crazy, but so I have all of this.
Yep.
I have all of that, and then I went down to portfolio and I put that in the same spot that you guys have it in. So not,
Okay, let me remote control.
okay.
No voy a eat.
Okay. Okay. So let's console log your data up here and see what data is coming back. So if I look in the database, we got all of these errors in here.
Oh my gosh.
So if we go up, we get a 404 not found localhost 3001 projects. So that means it's a problem with your backend code. So let's go to your backend.
Okay.
Can you take me there?
Well, I'm sorry. Where is it? No, that's not it. No, that's yours.
That's my front end.
So, which part here?
I'll take back over.
Okay.
So I'm going to just stop the server and restart it.
Okay.
And then I'm going to look in your server JS and you've got a dot instead of a slash. So I knew it was a 404 means it couldn't find it. So it wasn't a problem with any of the code in here. I knew that it was a problem with the routing. So that's when we read our error messages and we say, okay, well, what could cause a 404? So now when we refresh, we have a different error that says error empty response. Okay, well, if we look here, we've got an app crashed. So we got to scroll up and see project.findAll is not a function because we don't call the project from the file itself. We call it through db.js. because if we call it right through the project, if we call it through that file hasn't authenticated with the database yet. So now when we refresh, it's all there.
Oh, gosh.
Nicole, go ahead.
Can you see my screen?
Yep, everything
Oh.
looks okay on the back end. What's going on in the front end? Looks fine there. Where is your map? Oh, projects map, project name. Okay, so what's happening in the, go to your browser. And refresh. Okay, so open up your console. Okay, let me remote control.
Okay.
Okay, so first things first, I'm gonna split it down the middle, right? So you've got a console log data here. Is this another problem with me sharing my local host? Try that. Okay, so we should be seeing this data.projects. I'm sorry, we should be seeing this data, right? Because it's console logging it out. So if we go back to your console and refresh, we aren't seeing that console log. So something's got to be wrong. What is this? Control C and restart it.
Does she need her cores?
Well, it's not erroring out. This is blocking from fun also. This isn't blocking from projects, is still pending. So let's go to your back end. Okay, let me just confirm this theory. Okay, so that's running. So we know the problem is when it goes to projects, it's not actually getting down to this code. So what we need to do is debug there and say, okay, why is this not fetching? Why is that not going through? So we're going to look at your back end, and you've got your server get projects, async, rec res, wait project send. Your DB has your project. It is connecting to the database. What's your beekeeper look like? Oh, your beekeeper's fine. This has got me quite stumped, Nicole.
Okay, no problem. I'll keep going.
Server get, it's got to be a problem in your back end because let me just try something. I don't think that's going to fix it, but we can try it. That fetch request like isn't going through for some reason. And I don't know. Await fetch. await JSON, set projects, and then console log the data. And you do your projects.map.
I don't want to hold up everyone.
It
Breakdown, I'm just
3,000. If we do a 3001, does it 404 now? Yeah.
It's probably messed up. I've been working on this like all day.
Put this back to 3001. I have no idea why that's not project. Projects. Let's see this. I've got to be like, this code isn't getting run. So there's got to be a problem with, let's just do this. Oh, you're missing the parentheses after course. Good to go.
Thank you.
You may want to take out my extra console logs there. Let's take a break now and be back at 7:10.
Max, I'm about to, I want two quick questions. So your hero.js is the header, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I leave mine as header, is that gonna mess something up, or should I change it to hero?
Nope, you
Okay.
can call it header. Just be consistent. Wherever I call hero, just make sure you're calling it header in all the same places.
Okay, okay, I'm gonna try to fix that and then I might have a question when we get back.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So it's saying app.js, but I don't see, it's not showing anything wrong.
Okay, so it's saying, oh, you have two servers running.
How do I?
You have one there and one there.
Oh, I could always get, can I close both of them and just start
Yep.
over?
Yep.
All right. Terminal. So just, do I need to do Control C or just npm?
Nope, npm run start. Only need Control C to stop an existing server. Okay, now the problem is in cannot resolve components layout. So in your app.js, it can't find the layout.
All of this stuff that I had in here that I need to take out. I don't need to take all
Yep.
this.
Well, but you've got paths for all of them. So you might want to just follow along with what we're doing, because we're gonna get into making one path that's reusable in a second. What you may want to do is just comment out
Which one?
18 down. Oh,
Command Z.
just comment out the calculator feedback, tic tac, and weather.
Why does that do that for me? Why doesn't it?
Are you doing command slash?
Oh, yeah, that's, no, I didn't do that. Oh, now it's gone, right?
Command Z a couple times. Is your command button not working?
I don't know. Let me try it on the laptop. Command Z. No. Function. What the heck?
I'm not sure what's going on there, but I don't think your command button is working. You may need to reboot your computer.
It was working a few minutes ago. Okay. So how do I?
Is there an undo option under edit?
Oh,
You can do edit undo a couple times, but if your command button isn't working, you're going to need to reboot.
okay. I didn't need all of that stuff though, right?
No, we're going to do something different on that.
Okay, so okay, go ahead. Sorry. Okay.
Okay, so where we left off, we've got Netflix, calculator, and weather showing up here. But what do we actually want to happen? We want those names to show up in each card, right? And inside those cards, we want the summary to show up. So we're going to go back to our portfolio and let's look. Hey, every time that I have a new card, it's in this col SM6, right? And we're duplicating this over and over again. So what if we just take this whole card and return it right here? So I'm going to save that. And instead of the H5 weather app showing up, I'm going to put in my project name. And instead of first front end project using Bootstrap Grid showing up, I'm going to put in my project summary. So I save that. And now I've got Netflix, calculator, and weather. But I still have these two extra weathers down here. I want to get rid of that. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to delete out the extra divs. So I save that. And now look, I've got Netflix, calculator, weather, and I've got them all showing up. Now, one problem that we run into is, hey, I've got these in my database, but the weather was the first one I added. That's the first one that I want to show up. Well, that's not a problem. In our backend, we can say, hey, when you find all of them, sort them by the ID. So I go to the front end, I refresh, sort them by the, oh, it's order, not sort. Order them by the ID. So now we get weather, Netflix, calculator. So I'm just going to stop there. We deleted out any of these divs except one of them. And we took that whole div and we put it in our project map and put our project name and our project summary in.
The line is not 40.
28, kind of all the way down to 56.
Hey, Max, I'll pop right back in. I'm frozen somewhere on the screen.
Okay. Can other people see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure it wasn't me. Again, this is not homework. You don't have to turn this in. This is all about understanding. So if you guys don't understand any part of this or just need a review of any of the steps that we just did, let me know.
So,
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
So if I want to take my summary, can I copy it into Beekeeper and then put project name so I can stay? Okay.
Yep.
So this, because I was trying to get back to where you were from what I had going on. So what we did was in portfolio.js, where we had weather app written before we went, we did the curly braces. And then we did project name, and then instead of saying, and then on the P tag, where it says car text, then we put project summary.
Yep,
there.
and we took that whole div and made sure that div was inside of our map. Because the map is what's giving us access to all of that data.
Wait, say that again. We took that whole div and then did what?
Put it inside of the project map, because the project map is what's making it come out for each project.
Right. It was right underneath.
Right, project map was just putting out names before. We deleted the name and put the whole col SM6 inside of it.
Oh, so then we take everything, so everything else after that we delete.
Yep.
Oh, see, I missed that. Okay, wait a minute. So you have, so where we do link to project, that should be a lowercase p.
It needs to map, it needs to match whatever is in your app.js.
Okay. And then.
Don't forget to vote in the poll. We've got 5 votes in.
I have a quick question, just because I don't know, I got all messed up.
Yep.
But after the return, when I copy and paste the whole section, should I be putting a parenthesis before the return?
Yeah, so if you look at mine, the parenthesis is there to kind of just show you everything that's coming out of the return. It isn't actually required, but Prettier will put it in there for you just to make it easier to understand what is contained in the return.
So could I comment out the rest of the other stuff? Just to like, for
Yep.
now?
Or just delete it out, because this is the one card that we need.
Oh, okay.
Six votes in. Let me know if anyone needs help.
Are they kind of just stacked on top of each other right now?
No, they should be spread out. Make sure that you got your div class name right with the col SM6. And then also make sure that your div class name row is right above the projects.map. And if they are, let me know and we can share your screen. Need help, Larry?
I don't think so yet. Yeah, maybe I do.
Okay, go for it. Okay, so you're missing a closing quote on the class name,
Okay,
on 31.
all right, thank you.
Yep. And just make sure that fix it. Cool. Okay, rolling forward.
I still got an issue. Hold on.
Oh. Go ahead, Wayne. You have probably an extra closing div that you don't need. Try taking one of the divs out on, oh, you know what you're missing? Before you do that, put a closing curly brace on 46. All right, let me just request remote control. Okay, so what they're saying is this parenthesis here is closing out this, is supposed to be closing out this parenthesis here. So this div here closing out that div. This is closing out the col. Then you close out the parenthesis. Then you close out the curly brace, and then you need to close out one more curly brace. Nope. You close out that curly brace. You need to close out that parenthesis and then that curly brace. There you go. Stephanie, go ahead.
I think, let me see. I'm getting an error, but I think it's because I have an extra div here, but I'm not sure. Wait, hold on. I think it's this one.
Hold on. No. You're I think you're all right. What you need to do is take this whole div. No, I think you need to take this div here and replace it with this div here. So move the big div, instead of having project.name, that whole thing needs to be returned from the projects.map.
Here. Okay, so what did I do here?
You did all the right work, you just didn't move the div into the map.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just gotta, yeah, thank
You
you.
can basically delete the whole div that's in the map right now, and then move 32 through 47, I think, into it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep. Christy, go ahead.
I fixed it.
Okay. Nicole, go ahead.
I just wanted to know what it was supposed to look like again. I'm sorry.
Supposed to look like this.
if I put my thing in the database, why wouldn't it not show up? Like the summaries?
You would have to debug, so you would have to make sure that you got project.summary here. You would have to make sure that in your database model, it actually says summary here. And then you would have to, if all of that is right, you could put a console log project up here. And take a look in your console here and see what data is coming out. If the summary isn't set here, you've got a problem with your backend. If the summary is set there, then you've got a problem making it show up here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what I want to do now is be able to click on any one of these buttons. Maybe make it rain isn't the best text. So let's say learn more on that. Now, when I click on that, I want to go to this page, but it shouldn't say weather app. It should be details about my whatever page I just clicked on. So I go to my project page, and I know I need data to load when the page first opens. What do I use to do that? What did we use in Portfolio to get data from our database? Use effect. So we need to do the same use effect here. The use effect is going to say const get project. That is an async function that gets the project. We say const response was await fetch and to our local host 3001. Now I want to get a single project. So I'm not going to go to the projects endpoint. I'm going to go get a specific project. You know what? This should be a template literal. You'll see why in a second. Okay. Now, once I get that project, I'm going to get the data by awaiting the response JSON. I'm going to console log out the data. So I'm here on my home page. I click on Netflix and I look in my console. I get 404 not found. Why am I getting a 404 not found?
There's no endpoint yet.
There's no endpoint yet. So we come over here and we say, hey, server.get project async correct res it. And I'm going to res.send back a single project. How am I going to get just a single project?
Find by primary key. PK.
Okay. And where do I get the primary key from?
If you got to send a param or something.
Okay. So if I send a param, let's work in reverse. If I want to send the rec.param.id here, params.id, where else do I need to put this ID?
In the thing /.id.
Okay. And if I put it there, where do I have to put it here?
And the fetch.
And what am I putting here?
Same thing. No params. I don't know. I won't ramble on.
Colon ID. No. Yeah.
Okay. Now I've got a error on my date on the back end that says invalid input syntax for type integer :ID. Well, if we go look in our browser, look what it's making a fetch to :ID. It's not dropping that ID in.
Did you need the
You need the $ thing? No.
Well, let's
Temporal.
think through, where does this ID actually come from?
The
Project.
app.js,
Okay, so we go to app.js. Where does this come from?
the front end, or
Okay, so if we add an ID here, my page disappeared. So I go to my home screen.
do we have to make a path for something else?
We made a path here. This is actually right.
Oh,
And when you come down and look, we click on learn more and my page is blank. We know that we need to include the ID as part of the route. What do we need to go update to include that ID?
the back end.
No, we already updated the backend. The backend has the ID and is using it right here.
Oh, beekeeper.
Nope, let's not take guesses. Let's think through. Where does this ID come from? Where do we have the ID on the front end?
We need to go to project.js, no?
And what do we need to do in not in project, in portfolio?
In portfolio.
What do we need to update in here so the route knows that that ID is coming in?
The map part.
The map, and what part of the map?
You gonna map? No crap. I know I'm lost.
No, you're actually really close, Wayne.
Perfect.
Where do we have access to the ID in this code?
In
Where's-
project.
In this project, right? And we know that because if we do a console.log project.id and go back to the home page, there are all of our IDs, 2, 4, 5. And we know those are the IDs because in Beekeeper it's 2, 4, 5. So what we need to do is modify our link to go to the project page and include the project ID. Okay, now when we click on our project, the data isn't showing up here, but look what's part of our URL, ID number 4. That means the data is flowing from the link here to app.js, which is sticking it in the route parameter here. So if only we had an example of where we used that route parameter before. Let's go to the blog front end, and the blog front end in our app.js uses an ID. So if we go to the post editor, we can take a look and say, oh, params, that's what that sucker is called. And would you look at that? Here's an API call that we're using params.id. The params flow through use params to come out of the router. And we know that that's all part of the router because it's a route right here that's specifying an ID is going to come in. So that is the exact same code that we want to use on our project. We're going to say import our use params from React Router DOM. We are then going to say const params equals use params. And in here, instead of using ID : we're going to pass in the rec.params. I'm sorry, the params.id. I know that's a lot of steps. We're about to take a break. But now if we go to our project page, make sure your backend server is running. We may need to reboot it. Oh, I'm on the wrong project, sorry. Our server is now started up. Let's refresh in here and look what I have in here, a project that has the right project, Netflix. And if I go back to my home page and go to the weather project, now look at what's in my console, the weather information. So let's review those steps. First one's the easiest one. We make a new endpoint. We say, hey, it's going to get the project, and we say you're going to get an ID as part of the route. We then send back the project coming from the database, which looks it up by the primary key and uses the ID that is part of the route parameters. Then we go back to our app.js and we say, hey, when you go to a project page, there is going to be a route parameter of the ID. So when we go over each project here that shows up in the portfolio section of our homepage, we have access to the project ID in our map. So we are going to link to a learn more button that is going to take me to the project page, the project route that has the project ID flowing through the state from up here. That state is going to go to this route and pass in the ID, and we can get that ID out of the project page by using the params. Those params are flowing in here that we use as part of the request to the database to get that data out. After we do all of that work, we get the JSON and console log out the data, which will show us at the bottom of our console that we are getting the object back of the project we actually worked with.
First question, where did you get all of that stuff in the project?
This came from like this stuff or the stuff down here.
Yeah, that stuff. First one.
This I just copied and pasted from our existing portfolio HTML.
I'm sorry, could you go again?
This stuff I just pulled from our existing portfolio HTML,
Okay.
like the non-React code.
Question, I have a question.
Go ahead, Christy.
So okay, so now that we did this, I'm missing something again, but how do we make it individual though? I think I missed something.
So we don't actually have this showing up yet, right? If I go to the Netflix project, it still says weather app up here. We still aren't done, but down here, you notice we get the right data coming back from the database.
Okay.
So we still have to do another step of updating this so it shows up in here.
Oh, okay, so we're gonna update the database.
We're going to update the front end to show the database information.
Okay.
But we're going to pause here and I'm going to launch a poll. And what you should be having in your front end is if you go back to your home page, clear out your console and open up Netflix, when you open it in the console, you should see Netflix showing up. And if you go back and open up weather, you should see weather showing up in the console.
Remember earlier when you fixed mine and it had the words, it had it written out. That's gone. Does that matter?
No, it should be gone because what you should have instead is weather, Netflix, and calculator.
Okay.
Stephanie, go ahead.
I think the error that I'm seeing in my console might be related to the question I had earlier.
Okay.
Or oh, actually maybe. You know what? I'll come back. I think I found what I did wrong.
Okay. Zach, go ahead.
I think I might have missed a step with the when we were inputting the routes. When I click on these, it just comes up with like a blank page and it's saying no route matched location.
Okay, so let's go to your app.js. And you're just missing a slash between the colon and the on the other side of the colon.
Sweet.
And but check your database calls aren't working. It says 404 not found project /2
Okay.
in your console.
Yeah.
So go to your backend. And you're missing the same slash that you were missing in the front end. Okay, so now go back and click on an individual page. And if you pop open the project in your console over here,
Oh,
you'll see it's actually the one that you clicked on right there. So if you go back to your home page and click on the Netflix one instead, you'll see in your console that Netflix is coming up.
okay. Sweet.
Good
Thank
work.
you.
Stephanie, round 2, go for it.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so the error that I had was in the area that I had before.
Okay,
And it was showing this stuff, but then when I heard Zach saying that he's clicking on this,
Yep.
this happens.
so let's go to your app.js. And you're missing the slash in front of the colon on project ID. And save and go back to the browser. And okay, now you don't have the data showing up of like the actual information. So let's go to your project.js. And you're just missing the call for get project on line 13. So after line 13, do a new line and say get project with parentheses. Because remember, whenever we define an async function, we also need to call it.
Okay.
Okay, scroll up. And now you're getting a failed to fetch, which is normally a backend issue. So let's go to your backend code. And it is saying, scroll up a little bit in your terminal.
Oh.
Find by PK is not a function, is the error. It's because it's a lowercase k.
Oh,
Don't ask me why it's a lowercase k. I think it's stupid personally. Okay, and now when you pop open your project in the terminal or in the console, you see it says weather. But if you go back to your home page and open up the Netflix app instead, oh, maybe just use the back button twice.
uh-oh.
Oh no. Try to reboot your backend server. I think your nav bar kind of screwed you over there. Okay, so now refresh and open up Calculator or Netflix. And if you open up the project in the console, it should be your calculator.
Nice. Cool, thank you.
Good work, you're all caught up. So if you do get it working, take a step back and try and do the step-by-step steps. How is all of that flowing? From the second we load our homepage, how do we get the data from the database? How does it map over it to show up the cards? How do we generate the link to include the ID? How does the ID route to the project page in app.js? How does the project page pull out the parameter? How does the parameter get fetched to the backend? How does the backend get that individual project and send it through to the front end where it console logs? Go through step by step there. Make sure you understand that.
I have a
you-
question. Yeah.
Chrissy,
Yes,
go ahead, and then Wayne, I'll come to you next.
When everybody's showing their screen, their where it says weather app and like summary objectives, all of theirs looks in neat and in order. Why mine is all over the place? Like it's not. Is it?
It's probably because it wasn't fixed in your original code.
It did well. It didn't look like this before, but where is this something that I'm fixing in the HTML portion?
Yes, in the what is in our portfolio page
93.
in the map section is probably where you have it wrong.
Okay.
Wayne, go ahead.
set a closing tag for the div on 93.
Killing me, Wayne. Change the A to a link, a closing link. Oh, hold on. Let me just remote control. So whenever you've got a line that's this long, you should try and break it up so the formatting is much easier to read.
Pretty will do that for you.
It will, but when Prettier isn't working, sometimes you got to do it yourself to figure out why it's not working. Now it's saying 102 is still wrong because you've got a missing closing something. If you never learned how to do indentation right, relying on Prettier is not going to be your friend, because you've got like a section here, but none of this is indented right. So it makes it much harder to find where the closing things are. You were missing a closing div at the end. So you should be good to go.
I'll finish the rest and so.
Hmm?
I have a couple more things to put
Okay.
in before. All right.
Anyone else need help?
I'll just wait.
Okay. So I've got one more thing to show, and then we'll spend the last 30 minutes of class either on catching you guys up or on capstone questions. So we've got all of the data showing up here. Now we just need to use it. But we know we can't use data here without using state as well. So we have to say const project set project is going to say use state, and it's going to start out as empty. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, if there isn't a project set, return out a div that has an H1 that says loading. Then we are going to set our project to our data.project. Now we need this loading if the project is not loaded, because this whole page is going to load first. Oh, I forgot to use state import. This whole page is going to load first, and then it's going to make the API call, and then we're going to want to show all of the data about it. But if we don't have this loading in there first, it's going to try and get the title of the project and not know what it is and cause issues. So what we do is we do this check-in here, and we say, if you don't have the project as part of the state yet, just show this loading screen until the set project runs. Once that set project has run, then we can go out and show that information. So now down here, we just go through and we start cleaning things up. And so instead of weather app showing up, we say, hey, the project.name should show up. And instead of this summary showing up, the project.summary should show up. And then we need to look in our database and say, hey, all of these objectives should show up in the database. So I'm actually going to replace these LIs with little dashes.
Telemetry when speaking.
All of them?
Yeah, I'm gonna replace all of them, and I'm gonna get rid of all the closing LI tags.
Hold 1 second.
And then I'm gonna copy this and just paste it right into my database. I'm working on, what page should I have open? Number 2, that's weather. So I'm gonna put the objectives right into my database and save them. And then I'm gonna say, hey, my future improvements. I'm gonna take those, stick them right in the database. And save them. And then my tech stack. You guys get the idea. I'm just gonna do these two. So I'm gonna say project.future improvements. I'm gonna say project.objectives. And then in here, I'm gonna say don't forget, when you make changes in Beekeeper, you have to hit the apply button. Now I've got a problem. I orphaned an LI tag somewhere. 77. Oh, we still need LIs. Oops. Shouldn't deleted all of my LIs. Okay. So now in our browser, here's our weather app, and here are all of our objectives showing up. And if I go back to my home page and open up Netflix, now I've got the objectives coming in from the database there. So obviously still more work to go to clean this up, right? You have to get the image URLs working, but the good news is we've got a placeholder for that in the database. And we would need to finish updating our database to include the links and the tech stack. But hopefully this is a good starting point for understanding how the data flows. It is more important that you understand how the ID started all the way up in app, got down to home. Once it was in home, it made it to the portfolio. From the portfolio, we did a fetch to the database. That endpoint got the projects, ordered them by the ID, and sent them back to the front end. The front end then got that data and set it into the state. The state then looped over each one of them in the map and put the ID into the link. The link then flowed into app.js and matched the project ID. That project ID flows into the project component, at which point we use params from the router to get the params object that we then get the ID out of and send into our response fetch. That fetch comes to our server.get. The ID comes in as a parameter, which is used to query the database. The database sends back the project, which we get here. We set into the state again. That project then comes down, now knows that it's not trying to load the data, and instead shows the project name down here with the summary and the name. I'm here to answer any questions, help you guys screen share through that. Would recommend that you try and go through that flow that I just did and make sure that you understand step by step how that ID is getting all the way through. Stephanie, go ahead.
I think I messed up my code when I was trying to do the replacing of the LIs. I
Okay.
don't know what I did.
Share your screen. I think I messed it up as well. You need closing LIs. I didn't realize our nav bar was using it. So you need a closing LI here, 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 and at the end of this one.
Yeah.
So just go ahead and put them back in.
Mm.
Yeah, I screwed mine up as well by doing that. You were just following me. There wasn't anything you did.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that was the only thing because I'm looking through. I'm like, I think that's it, but
That should be it.
all right. Thank you.
Yep. Oh, sorry, Stephanie. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to lower your hand, but you beat me to it. Ignore whatever just popped up.
Oh, thank you.
Be right back. Give me 1 second. I am back if anyone has capstone questions or questions on this code. Don't worry, I remembered to record all of this, so you will be able to replay the step-by-step of where the data is flowing. But this is a very typical back-end flow of reusing that one page to show all of the data in our database. And you can think about this. We did it for the blog project, right? We said, hey, go load blog post 1 and show that. Oh, go load blog post 2 in that same post editor. You see that on Amazon all the time, right? Or any e-commerce site. When you click on that product page looks identical to all the other product pages, but it's reusing that one page and pulling in all of the different data in the database. So this is a common full stack flow that's important to cover.
I have a quick question. So I was a little bit behind, but on yours, I noticed. Oh, it already said summary, so. I just had 2 summaries for the weather, but I didn't know why, so that's my own thing. But
Yeah, Zach. So what's happening there for the when you are on this page and you click on a link in your nav bar, it says loading ... and it crashes the backend server here. But if you look at what's happening, it's trying to link to project/index.html. So what it thinks it's doing is it's trying to load a project with an ID of index.html, and it's causing all kinds of problems. So the easy way to fix that is if you go up to your links, just put a slash in front of all the hrefs, so it knows, hey, index.html is all the way up at the root of my project. So now when you go back and click on about, it should actually take you. Ooh, I don't know if it will actually do that. Oh, you know what the better, oh, then that, maybe that will work. Let's see, if we change this to a link, we say to, change that to a link. And then I don't know if it's gonna work for this. Link to, I don't know if this is valid. Let's give it a try. And then
Question. The LIs, did you copy them and put them into the beekeeper?
no, I changed them just to dashes instead of LIs.
I'm sorry, I can hardly hear you.
I changed them from dashes to LIs. I'm sorry, from LIs to dashes instead.
No, it's just that in your project where the LIs were, it's just project objectives there now. So I was just trying to figure out.
Yeah, in the database, instead of putting the LIs into the database, I put in little dashes before each one of them to separate them. So instead of the LI tag being here, it's just dash.
Let me share so I can.
Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second. Oh, I did that in portfolio. No, project. Link, link to just a slash. Okay, so that takes me back.
Thanks.
And that did not take me. Zach, this is somewhat of a solution to your problem of it crashing the navigation. I changed it to link tags instead of hrefs. What it isn't doing though is scrolling me to the right section in the page. I don't have a solution for you on this. This should really be scrolling me to the home page, and it isn't. So I would have to research how to fix that. Larry, go ahead.
What should our code be doing now? Because all I got is loading.
Okay, go to your back end. And okay, no problems there. Everything looks fine there. So let's go to your front end code. And scroll up on your project page. And you're missing the set project to data.project.
Okay.
Oh, just be careful that you're on portfolio on my code. You should be on project.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Doug, go ahead.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. So one of them I tried adding, I added a column called, so I could put those little sayings in the buttons here. They are not, they're just coming through as undefined or just nothing at all. Like they're not showing up as part of the project.
Go ahead, share your screen. Let's take a look.
Oh, am I not showing my screen?
You are not.
Oh, so, okay, so here's the beekeeper. I created this column, which.
Did you update your model?
No. Okay, I'm gonna go do that. The other question I had was, I can understand why it would be, how it could be dangerous, but is it possible to put HTML in a text?
It is. The reason why I didn't do it is not because of the database. It's because you need to use a property in React called dangerously set inner HTML.
And is that dangerous?
It is if you don't trust the source of the HTML. But if you know, hey, the only one who has access to putting things in my database is me, it is not dangerous. When it is dangerous is when you just give the users a text input to put in whatever content you want, and then you just show that content onto your screen. But if the source of the HTML is trusted, in other words, only you would have access to your database to add that HTML, it is safe to use that method.
Okay, and aside from rendering something bad, could it actually execute code?
It could execute a script, yes.
Okay.
It wouldn't ever execute in your database because your SQLize sanitizes database commands for you. So they couldn't execute a SQL injection attack, but they could have a script tag get injected into your code. It wouldn't ever run on your back end, but it could inject into the front end page. But again, if you know the person inputting the code in your database is safe, and you know that there's no other way for them to, add that code in, it is perfectly valid to use dangerously set inner HTML.
Okay, thank you.
Or maybe it's just dangerously set HTML. If you just do a search for dangerously set React, it will come up.
Thank you.
Stephanie, go ahead.
During the last part of the code that we were entering, I remember you saying something about copying, pasting something into Beekeeper. What was that? Because I still only have weather calculator and Netflix up on there.
I was asking about that, but whenever you
Yes.
there.
So all I did was I took objectives and future improvements and I put them into my Beekeeper.
Oh.
So you can literally just fill out objectives and future improvements with a couple of things. And when you hit apply down here, when you go back to your front end and refresh on the project page, they should magically pop in right here.
Gotcha. Okay, I deleted mine entirely, so I was wondering, I was like, what part was that I missed? But
Yep.
okay, thank you.
Nicole, go ahead.
Does that apply for the links as well?
I didn't do the link section, but you can do it the same way, yes.
Okay. I just have one more question. 1 second.
Go ahead.
So let me make sure you didn't do it already on your side. Oh, the tech stack, would that just be like projects.tech stack? And the database, right? And just do it all the same.
Yep.
But leave it in a span and then do the curly brace and then dots.
Well, the span may not show up the same way. That we haven't really set up our React code to accept HTML coming from the database.
Oh, okay.
So I can do that as an example if you guys are interested. So what happens is if we take our tech stack, right, and let me go find the tech stack.
You messed it up.
Future improvements, live. Okay, so here's our tech stack, right? So I'm going to take these three
I think you
span
messed
tags.
up the live share, Max.
I messed up the live share? I didn't do anything. No, my live share is still going. Try just closing it and reopening it. It looks like everyone else is still connected. Okay, so in my tech stack, if I, what page am I on? I'm on weather. So I'm going to go for my tech stack and I'm going to paste in all of that HTML, right? And I hit apply. Now in my front end, I say project.techstack. And I come to my front end and it doesn't look like anything's in there. So if let me make sure I put that in the right spot. I put it in the wrong spot. That's why. Put it in the weather app. So I refresh and I get this band showing up. Like, well, the heck, I wanted the span to actually show up. Well, React is saying, hey, unless you know that HTML is coming in and we should render it, that can be a security issue. So what we need to do is dangerously set HTML using React. And so there is a property that we can use that will let us use that HTML. So basically what we do is we say, hey, when you show up the tech stack, dangerously set the HTML that we have coming in. Again, this is only dangerous if you don't know where this tech stack code is coming in from. So we say, hey, we are going to return something called HTML that's coming from our tech stack. And there's no way that's going to work on the first try. Now we crashed it, and it says, must be in the form underscore HTML. Just try it as a regular object. So now I think that's working. Where did our badges go?
We already have Bootstrap in the link, right?
Yes. Oh, you know what? I think it's an issue with class name. Wonder if that just needs to be class in the database. See if that fixes it. Yeah, it does. So when we put our code back into the database, because it's regular HTML and not React code that's going in to the database, you just need to change your class names to class. So basically, in order to get that HTML to show up right from the database, we need to do this step of saying dangerously set inner HTML, and then we can access the HTML that's coming from the database. Otherwise, whatever comes from the database is going to be shown as text instead of HTML. Does that make sense at a high level, Nicole?
That made 100% like, yeah, it made sense.
Okay. Wayne, did you get back into the live share?
Can you hear me real quick? Oh, so I was saying the project.test stack should be in the H4 then. And you're H3 basically.
I have it right underneath the H3. I have it as a new div now.
Oh, so it doesn't have to be in both, so I can delete mine.
Mhm.
Okay.
All the objectives were put in Beekeeper.
Yes.
In one line.
You can use line breaks as well. With I think if you do Shift Enter in Beekeeper, it will add a line break. Let me confirm that. So in Beekeeper, if you do Shift Enter, it will let you add that line break in there. So I want everyone to take a step back on this, right? Because you're not turning in this assignment and you don't even really need to deploy this. The important thing here is that you understand the data flow. You understand how the params are working. You understand that the data, how it gets from the front end to the back end to the database, from the database back to the back end, shows up in the front end. The front end clicks a link. It does some routing magic, gets the params. It sends that to the back end. The back end passes that to the database, and it comes back through. and shows up in state. That is the most important thing to get out of this. And I know it's frustrating if your code is not working, but everyone needs to take a step back from the code working and make sure they understand that flow. And if you have questions about the flow, that's what I want you to spend the last 13 minutes of class on. With that said, Doug, go ahead.
Well, this isn't about flow.
Oh,
but
that's fine.
it's real quick. The is in that weird div that's both an opening and closing div.
Yes.
And so that's part of the dangerously set inner HTML.
Yes.
Okay.
You're basically creating the div to put the HTML into.
And could you substitute a P tag or something else, or is it specifically?
You could, but then the HTML would get set inside the P tag, which
Okay.
may be something that you want.
Right, okay. But you would write it the same way rather than an opening and a closing, just all one.
Correct. Yeah, whenever a tag does not have content in it, it is preferred to be self-closing. So whenever there's nothing between the opening and closing tag, it is preferred to be self-closing instead of having an opening and a closing.
Oh, I didn't realize you could do that with any tag.
Yep.
Oh. Thank you.
At least you can in React. I know that that is the preference in React. I believe for most HTML elements, it is as well.
Yeah. Can you help me figure out what's wrong?
Go for it, share screen.
There's something wrong with, well, let me just show you the section.
Yep. Me. Thanks. It's probably just a closing div. Well, hold on, let's see. You've got so it says this div does not have a closing, that red squiggly, and that is
I took out one div because it made everything else red.
that's right before the end of the section. So right before the end of the section, I think it's missing a div. And you're good to go.
So all these projects is not defined, supposed to be there.
No, that's a problem with you're missing your state up here. Do you want me to put that in, or do you want to catch up on your own?
I want your help.
Okay. So you need the state project and set project, which is a use state that starts out as empty. And then when you get the data back from the server, you want to set the project to the data project.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Mac.
Oh, and before you go, missing a slash.
Thank you.
No promises that got it working, but that gets you a step closer. Oh, okay. Let's take a look. Pop open your console. Let's see what the error is
In this page or the before?
in this page. Okay, so no routes matched location project 1. That tells me it's a problem in app.js. So let's go to app.js. And you need to say, instead of /projects, it's going to be here. Let me just do it for you. It's going to be /ID. Yeah.
Okay.
So now we just get a loading and we got a 404 not found. So I'm not going to do this one for you, but what you need to do in your back end is, oh, okay, you just had an S in there. So
Oh.
we just say, see how we're returning all the projects here? We're finding
Mhm.
all of them. That's why we have an S in the URL.
Mhm.
But here we're finding one by the primary key. There's only ever one. So when we are asking for a singular project back from the database, we want to make sure that we never use an S. So it's find here, that's singular, project and project. But because we find multiple projects here, we find all of them, we say projects and projects. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that's progress. You got Netflix here. And if I go back to your home and click on weather, you get weather app. So the last thing you need to do is just update the code on your projects page to use all of the stuff like you did for project objectives and future improvements and all of that stuff.
Okay, so I just got to do these oh.
Just make sure they're in the database as well. Like,
Oh,
make sure there's some content in the database to make that show up.
okay. So yeah, I did it for weather app, but I have to do it for Netflix.
Yep.
Thank you.
Christy, go ahead. Okay, let me. Before you guys go, Ariel, link to the feedback form. Definitely fill that out. We need input about how we're doing and what we need to recover. Okay, so your problem is on project 100. You open a section tag and then you close it all the way down here. But because all of this is red, there's got to be a problem higher up. And we just keep going until it's not red. Okay, it's all red. Great. Okay, well, it's saying it's at 100. So let's start there. Section here. It's saying, I think this is an extra div. Uh, 141. Expected on, I think you got an extra div here too. There you go. You're muted, by the way, Christy, if you're saying anything.
I couldn't find the button all that time. So wait a minute. It says,
So you're missing 2 imports on the project page.
these two? No. Oh, yeah, I see now. I see what it is.
Wayne, go ahead. Nicole, we didn't set up outlet for the nav bar just because I knew we were only going to be using it on the one page. although it would be a completely fine use of an outlet, and you could set up a layout. We just didn't need it for this particular project.
Okay, thank you.
So what else am I missing?
What's going on in your browser? Okay, so when you click on a page down at the bottom. Okay, open up the console. Okay, no, go down to the bottom. It says no routes match location project one. What file do we keep our routes in? Okay, and what we need to do is tell our route, hey, we're going to pass in an ID. So the way we do that is we add in, hey, when we load the project page, we're also going to give you an ID as part of the URL. So now, when we refresh, now we get a different problem, 404 not found on project. So that is in our backend. So we go ahead and pull up your backend code.
Yeah. Where is it? Suppose. Oh, there it is. There we go.
Okay, and when we get the individual project, again, guys, we have to be careful. We are finding one project here. When we send back one project, we're not going to tell you you're getting projects back. We're sending back one project. One project, and we're getting the ID as a parameter. The colon tells the express router, hey, you're getting an ID in there, not the actual letters ID. So when we refresh, now we get a different error, something in the IMG component. So let's go look at seems to be your only IMG, so I'm just going to comment this out for now. Okay, so now all your data is flowing through, right? You good?
Yeah. Thank you.
Nicole, last question.
Well, you know why the IMG, there's an issue with it?
No, it's probably a, do you have the image in your public folder? I'm not quite sure what the problem is there. We didn't really finish out the project and get the image flowing through the database.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Nicole, go ahead.
Can you help me fix my cards?
Scroll down. What are they?
They're gone.
Oh, just reboot your backend.
Okay, 1 second, wait for me.
Was I all caught up, Max?
Yep. That's your front end. Now you got to go restart your front end as well. Good to go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Good night. Night.